we're dawning on that point where people are
Exactly,
on those
age wise. Well, after I told you, after I had shingles, chickenpox, adult form, if you want to say, I went to these sites, CDC sites, and I've got some friends with the health department I never got up to, but I got mixed answers all the way. I said, it is my understanding that having been re-exposed to that thing, I'm pretty protected for at least 10 years. I probably won't live much longer, who knows? But I said, what's the deal, or should I get the shingle shot now? Well, mixed. Probably more said, no, I wouldn't get the shingle shot at least for a few years. Yeah, you have some protection. Anyway, bears on that. Listen, maybe it's today, I don't know, coffee, but I feel so good at this, you guys here, and, you know, I've talked for a long time. I can see eye contact and smile on my face, you know, nobody's coming. So, if this maintains itself, which I'm hoping it will, because it's something you're paying for, and I think lots of information I have quite a bit to share, you know, but also for you to become involved with, and I see that it reflects anyway on our agreement real well of questioning things, asking questions, participating, doing your reading, some of which I'll be able to answer, other stuff I'll just lie. Let me just move on then to the very last issue that, thank you. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
I think you're seriously short.
That's okay.
They don't even see me over there.
Let's see.
Yeah,
So changes.
It's too bad that you don't have these on PowerPoint.
Oh, I know.
Um,
Yeah, it's just, you know, I've got, like I told you, I probably have 4,000 or 5,000 slides of different. I taught Mesoamerica, which is Aztec, Mayans, and their predecessors for 20 years and worked in the field. I probably have 800 slides or 1,000 at least there that I have converted all to PowerPoint. And quite a few of the bone and teeth stuff, as you'll see here, fairly quick. Well, I just haven't gotten everything. Okay, so I've already led you in this direction. These are the kinds of things that really we can look at. Increase in population size and density. So for the first time, humans went from a few people moving around a lot to a whole bunch of people that were more or less staying put. That opens you up for at least some of those things, water and food contamination. As you still see, we call it third world, but anywhere probably outside of Europe and the U.S. and some Middle East countries, you will see these kinds of things happening. It's the same thing that goes all the way back, is what I'm saying here. Demographic changes, infections become more of a threat. It turns out that epidemic demographers, causes of disease, people that study the causes and distribution of disease, but also are demographers that look at the age, sex divisions in different societies around the world, have figured out, and along with, that's probably most, that it takes anywhere, the consensus is between at least 250,000 people to maybe as many as 500,000 or 1 million for some of these what we call herd diseases to take root. And that is a simple mathematical kind of thing, because if it's in a small group, it's going to spread like a wildfire, might kill 2/3, and then where does it go? If it doesn't have an animal reservoir to go to and hide out for a while, or doesn't have, as Joe had mentioned, ability to go inert for a long, long time until another generation of survivors comes up to, oh, there he is, I can get that kid now, you know, then where does it go? It dies off. And we have good evidence of this when people visit in the 1800s, went over to the Faroe Islands, all kinds of stuff, and were infected during the period and didn't know it, incubation period, and brought measles, smallpox to some of these remote areas. Within a month, it killed almost all the people. I mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of people. Partly what happens in an epidemic disease like that, or pandemic sometimes, if it's real widespread a disease, we call it pandemic. But an epidemic disease like that is if it hits real fast to so many people in society, a lot of people die that could have lived if you had survivors providing them food, warmth, comfort, but because they're almost all hit at the same time. Tremendous amount of mortality. So, that makes sense then demographically, epidemiologically. But when you started getting a bigger food base and people stayed put for a good part of the year, and bigger, and towns then, settled communities, towns over time, divided by time, and then the early cities. And they're notorious, of course, for the kinds of hygienic problems which we'll talk more about on Tuesday. The other thing here is to note is that we simplify the ecosystem. You lose a lot of checks and balances. Just like we're doing today, by cutting into jungles for populations, and we're letting loose things that have had interrelationships in that jungle for eons, unknown time. They had their own little cycles in there and their own parties. But now we've opened up and destroyed so much of it, they're coming out.
They're mad.
It's a coming out party, and we're in real trouble. So it started back here when you're starting to destroy the checks and balances, and we talked about deer and Lyme disease in the East Coast 20, 30 years ago when it really got going with cutting in those into the fields, making those suburban places. So here's what happens. Insects for growing crops, rats, mice, stored grain, you name it, wheat rust. I grew up in a ranch and farm in Dakotas, and I can remember sometimes when wheat rust hit, it just wiped us out. Well, what happens is you don't have anything to fall back on often when you're in these early situations. A huge starvation problem. Of course, that's what the news is always about. How dry is it in Texas this year? Well, but we have a different time of technology and everything else. But you can see that with these hundreds of data, they had fallback crops, starvation crops. They had all kinds of things that they knew about, even in hard times. And they moved, and they followed game and water sources and all that sort of stuff. But here, how do you pick up and move when you start being a sedentary person? And your cemeteries are there, spiritually, ideologically. You're bound to that ground. And so private property becomes to be important and bounded. Hunter and gatherers, some of them have some territory, but they're not clearly marked. They can wander over large areas and overlapping territories. So this simplification, malaria is a good example. I mean, here's malaria, has been around, looks like closest DNA on it is from chimpanzees that we got, and it's been around a long time in terms of a hitchhiker disease into humans. And it says, oh God, I got to work hard now, but now, whoa, boys, look here. There's all kinds of hosts here, mosquitoes that are hanging out in these houses. We don't have to work very hard. We've got people, they don't move around much. We can go in their houses and get them at night, especially Gambiae, one type of mosquito that likes to hang around and bite a lot at night and get its blood meal, and in the process spurts out and inserts you, injects you, inoculates you with falciparum. Plasmodium falciparum is the most deadly form. We've made it real convenient for them to make a living. And then finally, famines, I've already talked about that. Also, the smaller lack of variety meant you got these nutritional things. For the first time, we get a pellagra, widespread, back in 1800, 1700, and further back, beriberi. And you're not going to need to know those in my medical anthropology folks in the upper division more. But dental caries, for the first time, we get dental caries, lack of protein, less protein eating, and grains and caries went to work. You'll see some things about this in bone and teeth later on in the course. Iron deficiency and dental caries, that'll be talked about, as well as vitamin D, rickets. So that'll be later on. So anyway, here we get famines and plagues for the first time due to soil erosion, creation of salt pans, overuse of soil. Among the Mayans, we know that's one of the things. Too much of a good thing, their population blew, and the overused land. It was complicated, the fall of Mayan civilization.
It was because
That
they weren't
certainly was
rotating.
one. Sorry?
But they weren't rotating their crops either.
Oh, they knew a lot about crop stuff. It just got to be too much, and they cut so many trees down, erosion. They had check dams, all kinds of stuff like. I tried to fight it. I'm sorry, we're getting close. So, get the main point here. What? Simplification of ecosystem provides these kinds of things. Monocropping, so much of the world already is doing even today, monocropping. Famines and plagues. So simplifying the, okay. Keep a little bit of grip on that stuff.
I have a question on wheat rust.
I'm sorry, where is it?
Wheat rust,
Okay,
I guess it was back in the 1500s when they had that in England. When they
Okay.
had a problem with the wheat, and people were actually,
well, we had it in the 1950s.
they had it in the 50s as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Where they, one whole
Oh, I did.
colony, I guess, it acted like it was an LSD, it was a hallucinogen.
Oh.
Is that the same thing as wheat rust, or not?
I've heard about, like, mildew, that they actually think, like an old book, that
No, I'm good, but let's have a meeting.
hallucinogenic effect, so maybe it's a fungus.
Because they blamed it all on the wheat and making of the bread.
Oh, in the east you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was ergotism.
Yeah,
Ergotism.
yeah.
It was what Sierra's saying, that was a fungus in the dampness and
Right.
passed along, yeah, and that becomes a hallucinogenic kind of thing, and so that fit into the witch
Right,
business, yeah. I don't remember enough about the details.
I couldn't remember the name, but
Yeah.
you said that wheat rust.
Ergotism.
Yep.
Okay. All right, guys. Everyone should try to stay up and read ahead, because I'm behind. But you have your schedule there, and what are we gonna do? You have the book.
I have that book.
Yeah,
You sure?
and I should be getting some today. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I should be getting a couple more in the mail today, and I'll try to get it.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good weekend. Stay up on this, because we will be moving faster as time moves on, and then, we're done.
Yeah, we only have 8 classes left.
Yeah, that's right. That's one way to look at
Yeah.
it. Good God, we only got a few left, thank God.
If anybody's
No.
ever taken any summer classes, this is like a summer class.
Yeah, I suppose.
I was looking forward to this class, and I was definitely doing, mess up my schedule.
Oh, good.
Hey, don't forget your book.
I know. I was like, trust me, I did not forget.
Well,
it.
Todd, I'm glad you got everything squared off, and I'm glad to have you in here.
Well, I'm glad to be here. This is something that's interesting to put on.
Good. Yeah, I think I tried to offer last